And Kron Gracie has finally made a statement after over a week since his last fight with Charles Jordain, where he lost, and his performance was disappointing. Dana White called his performance dated, taken from a time capsule from 1995. Charles Jordain also said that Kron style is old and no longer efficient. So finally, Kron has posted on Instagram about that fight. Kron says, "In a lifetime of fighting, it's always been a fight to the death. Understand the situation and willing to limit myself. Even that being said, I threw no punches because of bad advices and tried to please the Jiu-Jitsu community 2 days before my fight. First fight in my life, I didn't throw a punch. Going back to my old ways." So I'm trying to understand here what Kron is trying to say. Let's remember a little bit about let's go back to Kron's transition to MMA. First of all, in grappling, his biggest achievement was winning the Abu Dhabi. After that, he transitioned to MMA and fought in Japan, a few fights. In Japan, he pulled guard. He pulled guard and finished guys with rear naked chokes, taking the back from the guard. I think was an armbar in there. And he was very successful and defeated. So he signed to the UFC. His first fight against Caceres, Kron took his back standing and brought him to the ground for what I can remember and choked him out in the first round. It was very impressive. Everybody was talking about Kron and how he was gonna be the new Gracie representative, right? And a lot of hope for Kron. And then came that fight against Cub Swanson, where Kron pretty much just decided to strike with Cub Swanson and just never attempted a takedown. He did not pull guard, but it looked like as if he just want to showcase his striking skills, because he was working with the Diaz brother, Nick and Nate Diaz. They have great boxing, and I guess the idea was to showcase his striking abilities, and it was a disaster. Cub Swanson outstrike him. He was better in the standing department and just pick apart Kron, and it was a rough fight for him. And that was a few years ago, 2019. And then Kron retired, moved to Montana, pandemic hit, and all of a sudden he's back and he's fighting Charles Jordain. And everybody was wondering how was he going to approach this fight. And based on this statement that he just released, it looked like he took all the criticism from his fight against Cub Swanson. People was telling him, why are you striking? Why are not you using your jiu-jitsu? Right? Including his dad, Rickson. This article, Rickson is talking about Kron and his performance against Cub Swanson. And Rickson says, I believe he should train boxing the way he trains and be experienced enough to know he can box, but use that boxing to get inside the range and immediately make the transition from boxing to jiu-jitsu instead of trying to beat the guy with boxing. To trade hands with the guy to show he's capable of working in any area. He's proven that, but it was a little short of the victory, and I think that's not ideal. So basically, Rickson is saying Kron shouldn't be just boxing, but to use a little bit of boxing to go inside and use his jiu-jitsu. And I remember there was a Joe Rogan episode with Rickson, and Eddie Bravo was also invited to that episode, and they talk about this strategy that Rickson prefers Kron to use in MMA. Let's remember what Rickson was suggesting Kron doing in an MMA fight.
What is the strategy for Kron when he fights a wrestler that he can't take down?
He brings to the guard.
So guard pulling is something that he's thinking about.
The guard, he's no other option. It's like
so stay clinch, overhook.
So Rickson in this episode, he's saying that pulling guard is something that is totally legit. You should do when you cannot take a fighter down.
No, you cannot clinch. You have to use the legs, and you have to hit with the legs. So it's always a striking from the bottom.
The issue, though, that is some.
And then Rickson said you should use your legs to kick.
Someone can disengage. If you're on your back and you're trying to not clinch and not hold on to him, you're a jiu-jitsu practitioner, the guy can just disengage. You have to
they just stand up.
Once he disengage, he's escaping from the fight. I can stand up again and keep the same process of clinching.
So now Kron's in a situation where he's fighting a wrestler and he can't take him down. Then he pulls guard.
Yes.
And then he opens up his legs to kick. The guy stands up. Now he's got to stand up again.
Yes.
So they could just keep doing that over and over again.
Yes.
And if it's
then
a
how
wrestler,
does he win? How does he win?
I don't make.
So here Rickson talks about pulling guard as an option and then using the legs to kick. But they're pointing the difficulty of what happens when you open your legs and the opponent stands up. And what Rickson suggests is here, you just stand up and you repeat the process again.
Kron, I don't try to make Kron a good striker. I want to make him comfortable to in and out. I want to make very comfortable to fight inside with knees and elbows. You know, be dangerous inside, be comfortable on top, and be very comfortable on the bottom. The great strategy of Kron is going to keep a consistent pressure. That means he's not going to be studying or in a distance where the striker feels like waiting. He's going to be either 2 out or 2 in. And then once he's in, let's fight in fight. Let's fight like, elbows, whatever. And then immediately the fight goes to the ground, no matter if it's one on top or on the bottom. And then the consistency of this, I feel like opportunities will rise.
This has been the strategy from his father. And I wonder, after his fight with Cub Swanson and coming to this fight with Charles Jordain, Kron talks about receiving bad advice. And he was trying to please the Jiu-Jitsu community. And I wonder that if he went the other way and he decided to represent Jiu-Jitsu, do not throw any punches, and use the strategy that Rickson here is talking about, pulling guard and use the guard to make something happen with constant pressure. And of course, Eddie Bravo and Joe Rogan are pointing the challenge for when an opponent stands up. And Rickson's answer is, well, you just stand up and repeat the process. But we saw in the fight here with Kron and Charles Jordain how difficult was to repeat this process and keep this process, because on the way in you are getting picked apart, you're getting punched with different combinations. So I could see Kron Gracie's dilemma. In one hand, if he strikes the way he did with Cub Swanson, he's going to be outclassed in the striking department. But if he decides to grapple, then he's gonna find that that's not enough. So I think Kron is facing this dilemma. What should he do in the future in his upcoming fights? First of all, let me say that I want to keep seeing Kron Gracie fight, and he's a warrior and he's has a lot of talent. He's tough, he has a great mind. So I hope he keeps fighting and we keep seeing Kron showing what he does best. But Kron needs to realize that no longer he needs to represent Jiu-Jitsu to the point where he doesn't use any striking just to prove that Jiu-Jitsu is enough to win an MMA fight. But at the same time, he doesn't have to just strike and not just Jiu-Jitsu. So I feel like Kron needs to accept that the modern MMA game has evolved. His father, Rickson, didn't fight MMA. Rickson and his uncles, they fought valetudo, no holds bars. In those days, there was no time, no rounds, no weight divisions. So you could apply this strategy of pulling guard like Hoyes did, defend from the guard and look for a submission from the guard. But that strategy no longer has worked. I think Kron needs to look at fighters or grapplers that have incorporated a little bit of everything: Muay Thai, boxing, wrestling, and maybe even pulling guard eventually. But he needs to become a little more complete MMA fighter. If he's gonna be in the UFC, in the MMA, and keep fighting, he needs to become a complete MMA fighter and follow the examples, for example, like Habib, or maybe a better example would be Brian Ortega, even Gilbert Durinho, Gilbert Burns Durinho, or even Damian Maia, where they use the striking. They're comfortable standing, they're comfortable striking, and once the opponent least expected, he hits the Jiu-Jitsu takedown. He needs to work a lot on wrestling and also, you know, incorporate the grappling within all the other disciplines. And I feel like if he managed to do that, he's gonna have better chances. And I cannot wait to see if he's able to put that all together.